The line from March to Spalding was the result of two bills being presented to Parliament by the Great Eastern and Great Northern Railways in 1863. The GN&GE Act was granted on the 21st of July. The Great Eastern, although being unsuccessful, was granted running powers. The joint began with a junction on the March to Wisbech line north of March Station and was opened to goods traffic on April 11th, 1867. Passengers followed on the 2nd of September the same year. It was closed by British Rail on the 27th of November 1982.
My name is Bill Carolan. I came to Spalding as station manager in July 1982. My previous position in Whitemore Marshalling Yard was that of area freight assistant. There we dealt with traffic for all parts of the country, including Spalding. This was forwarded on the 5:15 freight train each morning. It was noticeable that the Spalding traffic was on the decline due to the imminent closure of the joint line. And sadly, this happened on Saturday, the 27th of November 1982. The area manager from March, Colin Palmer, signalman Jackson and myself were in Wellinbridge signal box when the last passenger train passed by from Spalding to March. It was the end of an era. This is where the yard box was situated, and the signalman on duty had control of all movements into and out of the yard and the north end of the station. Views you have just seen is what is left of the yard and the up and down main line into and out of the station.
Off to Lincoln and Doncaster. To Lincoln. To Peterborough. This half of the footbridge is out of service.
Two platforms almost hidden by the undergrowth, and the footbridge sadly no longer in use. I wonder how many pairs of feet have crossed here in the past.
Spalding has an annual flower festival, usually held on the first Saturday in May. Thousands of visitors arrive to watch the parade of decorated floats. all done with locally grown tulips. In my first year here in charge, 23 special trains arrived, carrying 10,000 passengers. In those days there were 6 platforms, but now that number is down to 2. The number of special trains that now arrive has also got less and less.
As things were, a train from Peterborough,
A special from Wellington Salop passes number 1 box.
This is the spot where Welland Bridge signal box once stood. It can now be seen on the Nene Valley Railway outside Peterborough. This is a view looking from Welland Bridge towards Burr Lane, with one of the old bridges in the foreground.
Welland Bridge box when the joint line was operational.
Empty stop from Weston-super-Mare en route for cleaning passes Welland Bridge.
Ron Brown. I retired from the railways 10.5 years ago, and my last position was station manager at Spalding, in charge of the joint line between Donington Road and Welland Bridge, inclusive. And I have to cover the on-call from Donington Road as far as Welnley Barriers, mainly. But my recollections of the joint line go way, way back prior to that. I can first remember the joint line in 1929, when I used to travel as a youngster from Sheffield to Ipswich on the Liverpool Harwich boat trains, when I used to go home to my father's home in Ipswich for holidays. I went to various places in Yorkshire and Derbyshire and various places, until eventually I came back to Bourne on the M&GN, from whence I went to Sleaford, back on the joint line again. And I travelled and I covered the joint line from Blankney, which is now Metheringham, but Blankney in those days, that's where the old Lincoln Control was. The old Lincoln Control hut was there, the big brick building with the steel bars up, where they had the wartime control from Lincoln. The building's still there, but of course the station's gone except for a platform. And I cover from there right the way through Scopwick and the various stations down Ruskington, Sleaford, all the way down to Mill Green. Not Spalding, but Mill Green, single box only. Then I moved into Spalding proper, and by this time, of course, we came on the March area.
Burr Lane level crossing in its heyday.
You can see there's the signal box, and even the levers still left in the signal box. There's the platform service in front of us, and the 2 platform walls on the left, the track bed in front of us, and behind us even there's a house built on the track surface.
The interior of Covert Box as it is today. And as it was in 1981. Bank crossing, literally miles from anywhere.
Nothing left, only the 3 posts of the toilet.
The last excursion passes Queen's Bank on the last day.
Fern and Twiddy closing the gates for the very last time. Lever frames still in situ.
The up and down platform at Postland, looking towards Spalding, as they are today.
These are just wagon bodies.
Industrial sandhoppers past Postland Station, bound for Whitemoor, and then on to Middleton Towers.
Rail before road causing chaos at Postland.
Box and level crossing. Side look.
Postland signal box and crossing in 1981. Signalman cautions train for Dowsdale, barrier failure.
Queen's Bank and Postland. We've left Postland and now at Dowsdale crossing, which was a residential crossing and eventually became a site of automatic half barriers. On the nettles at the side of the track bed, even with the barrier weight arms attached to them. We've got what remains of the barrier relay cabinet. It looks a bit dilapidated, but it's still in place, such as it is.
Postland Common Crossing was manned until 1980 and then became a public telephone.
2 days before closure, Monk, Breton, Middleton Tower sand empties past Postland Common.
Now we've arrived at Holbeach Drove level crossing. The track bed looking towards March. We approach French Drove. 3 signal posts still standing 10 years after closure. Next stop is French Drove Station. Inside French Drove box, as it is today, the signalman's lockers and train ready to shelf still remain. How many train register block books have been filled out here over the years? How many trains have been reported over these wires?
And a Yarmouth Derby train heads down the main line between the French Drove loops.
A Class 47 passes by.
What was the track bed of the old M&GN, which used to cross the joint line on the level. The M&GN used to run in this section from the Murrow M&GN station across to the next station along towards Peterborough, which was Ryde. And the eastern, or the joint line, used to cross from here from Guyherne to French Drove. And it was one of the few crossings in the country, and in fact I think there was only two, where the two lines used to cross on the level. The signals that you're looking at now, with the signal box behind them, is not part of the original setup when it was in an operating state. The signal box, I don't know where it came from, and the signals were put there after the closure of the Midland and Great Northern, and they control the movement from the Midland and Great Northern onto the next piece of line which was put in round onto the joint line. That was for the facilitation of traffic from Brickyard to I Green into Whitemore.
Class 31 with a train of empties approaches Murrow. Murrow signal box. Past a passenger train passes Murrow. The M&GN crossing at Murrow.
Signals and line sides approaching Murrow.
Welland Bridge down to Nene. Of course, I only covered the on-call. Had one or two little incidents there which I still bring a smile to my face when I think about them. One was when I got called out. One very, very hot afternoon, one Saturday afternoon, exceedingly hot, and I got called out by Cambridge Control that a dog had been struck by a train at Murrow, down towards March. So off I went in the railway van. I went down to Spalding, picked up the railway van and went down to Murrow, where the signalman met me. He said the dog had been knocked down just near the sidings. It was decided by a private firm that full of pallets, and lots of pallets. And I went down, and sure enough there was the dog, but it was dead. It wasn't injured, it was dead. No collar around its neck. So all I could do, exceedingly hot day, couldn't leave it there because it was a health hazard, so I decided to bury it. So I went back to single box, got a spade, found a soft spot under some pallets in the old yard, maybe 60 yards away from the railway line, dug a hole to bury it, and ended up with 2 wires sticking out of the hole. And of course I went back to the single box. I said to the single, Bobby, are you all right? Everything all right now? And he said, no, they're not. He said, one of the track circuits has failed. So I said, what have you got a bit of tape? He said, no. He said, there's some tape around that hand gate. And so I got a piece of tape off the hand gate and I went down and taped the wires together again. I went back and said, oh, you're fixed now. They said, they've rectified themselves. I said, so I just put a pallet over it and left a message from the S&T to come out Monday morning and make this repair, and that was that. Until the following week, on the area manager's bulletin, there was a note to all concerned to please note that unauthorised repairs to S&T equipment wasn't allowed. So I got done without being done.
Rail bridge over the river at Guyherne. This has since been demolished. Guyherne station and signal box once stood here.
The last day of the joint line, and March drivers take a final look, en route to Doncaster Works with 2 Class 31s. They are passing over the road section of Guyherne Viaduct.
Walkway to 20 feet river signal box and the upyard. We are at 20 feet river north of Whitemoor Yard, and this signal is still standing today. The local council have made this a nature walk to Guyherne.
Hauling and enthusiasts special, approaching 20 foot, bound for Spalding.
This picture gives a fair idea of the size of Whitemoor Yard, all spread out behind the train. 20 feet river signal box. The up departure roads. In past years, this was the British Transport Police office.
Whitemore admin block, containing the yardmaster's office, the stores, the telegraph office, etc.
Here is the track bed of the GN&GE joint line. Norwood Yard. The up departures.
Norwood cattle pens, much used in the Whitemore heyday for Irish cattle, very much overgrown at the present time.
French Drove Station House.
French Drove Station House, believed to be haunted. My friend Harold Gaunt bought the property at French Drove in 1965. On his arrival, he decided that he would go into the village of Gedney Hill to fetch some provisions. He had a word with the young lady at Gedney Hill stores, and she asked where he came from. He informed her where he came from. She asked also where he was going to live in the area. Harold informed her that he had bought the station house at French Drove and was going to live there. She was a little bit shocked. She said, "Oh, I wouldn't live there. The place is haunted." Well, really, Harold never took any notice of this at all, until about 3 or 4 years later. It was a regular thing for the post lady to come to French Drove with the mail. Well, this particular morning, Harold and his son was having breakfast, and he heard a noise, and it said, "Yoo-hoo, anybody there?" So Harold went down to investigate, thinking it was the post lady. When he got down, there was nobody there whatsoever. And this happened on 1 or 2 occasions. Now, being a relief signalman at French Drove some of the time, I had 2 experiences there. Not really ghostly, but I couldn't understand what happened. This happened twice in 1 week on the night shift. I was winding the old gate wheel at Holbeach Drove one night and got them so far, and I just couldn't move the gates to shut them for a train. Thinking that the gearing on the gate lever or outside somewhere up, I went down to investigate. Well, I went down and I could see nothing foul on the gate lever or the gearing at all. I just give the gates a push outside, came back in the box, and there was nothing wrong. The gate wheel was working perfectly. This happened to me on 2 occasions.
We've just seen the cast iron seat name from Cubbit Station, which was the first station out of Spalding. Beyond that was Postland Station, and here we've got again a cast iron seat name still attached to the seat. As you can see, the seat is of Great Eastern origin, and the cast iron supports at each end bear the initials GER, which you'll see perhaps in close up in a minute. We've 2 different types of guards hand lamps here, one from each of the 2 parent companies of the line. On the left hand side we have a standard Great Eastern lamp with its sliding brass knobs at the side to change the glasses from green to white to red, and on the, you'll see that that particular one was allocated to a guard at Whitemore. It bears his name on the plate at the top. On the right hand side we've got a Great Northern, standard Great Northern hand lamp, and this was allocated to Spalding Station, fact number 17, and would date back to about between 1900 and 1920. And these were the 2 standard types used on the line. This is a vessel which contained the oil to fuel the platform lamps that would have stood on all the platforms on the joint line. It's a platform lamp interior, and it bears a little steel plate GN&GE to denote its ownership. Great Eastern style of container that used to hold the detonators. This particular one came from, as you can see, Holbeach Drove, south of Spalding. The bottom one is a similar sort of thing. This was based on the Great Northern style. Looks very much like metal container, stamped on the side GER 1 for 1 gallon, and it was used, as you can see, at Cubbit Station. It contained carbolic acid for cleaning purposes. You'll get a close-up of the plate in just a moment. Selection of luggage labels from the various, well, they would have probably been from elsewhere to the various stations on the line, so it's the destination label showing the various joint line stations to just north of Spalding. To destinations beyond March, if you look closely, most of them would have travelled the line certainly between Spalding and March, and then beyond to places such as St Ives, Ipswich and so on. The wall clock made by Potts and Sons of Leeds, and was typical of the sort used in the joint line signal boxes, stations and offices. This one in fact is branded on the back GN&GE JC, Joint Committee. The movement inside is marked GER and the face is marked GNR, so it's a bit of a
mixture of all the parent companies and the joint initials.
At French Drove as a porter, and from that I went to relief porter region, and then I decided I'd had enough of that, so I thought I'd start as a signalman, and I started at French Drove as a signalman. And the first night after I passed out as a signalman, the first night I had at French Drove on my own, the more important thing I can think of what happened that night, I had the sand train come down in front of the express, and I had to put it in the loop. I put it in the loop at French Drove, and the express went by, and after the express went by I got out a section for the express from Postland, and then I wanted to send the sand train. So anyway, I gave them the proper bell signals for the sand train, and pulled all off for it. And about 5 minutes later, the driver come on. He said, "I'm sorry, Bobby, I can't get on, can't move." So I was left with another engine. So I said, "All right, mate, no problem. I'll close up again, switch you, cancel you off, and get you another engine." So, done all my bell rings and everything, wrote in the book, failure in the loop, sand train, and I rang the controller up, asking for an engine for the sand train. And Harry Pulley was the controller, and he said to me, "All right, we'll send you one out." So anyway, the sand train came. I told him what he got to do and to get in the loop. He got in the loop, he backed onto his train, and I told him to let me know when they was ready to come out. Next thing I heard, he couldn't get away, he'd got no power. So I have to ask for another engine. Done the same again, go through to Harry Pulley, ask him for another engine, sent me another engine. That carried on. I told him how to get into the loop, and he done it. I said, "When you're ready to go, give me a ring and I'll send you on your way." Anyway, he backed onto the train. He came back in about 10 minutes later, no power. Could I have another engine? I said, "How many engines do you want, mate? You got 3 down there." So he said, "Well, we want one more, mate." So I said, "Righto, I'll see what I can do." Rang Harry Pulley up again, asked him about another engine. Of course, he had a little bit of a laugh and joke. He said, "What are you doing with these engines?" I said, "Well, they're too big for my double O gauge, Harry. I need one to pull the sand, mate." So he said, "Right," he said, "I'll see what I can do." 10 minutes later, he rang back. He said, "Sorry," he said, "the only engine we got," he said, "is a test engine." I said, "Well, that'll test this lot out, Harry. Send it down." So he sent it down with 4 or 5 mechanics. They came down, got it onto the front of the train, pulled all these 3 dead engines out. They had to come up, back up to the station. I put them in across to the loop, across the crossover, put them in the other loop, let him out the other end, come back, got him on the train, and away. Eventually we got away. And I sent him forward and let Harry know that it got away. He said, "About time too." And after that, it didn't get so far. It got halfway to Lincoln, and it broke down again. And that was the last I heard of that train. And then, of course, the engine repairers, they was down in the loop. And of course, around about 5:30 in the morning, they got one of these engines going, and let me know that they was ready to move and take these others back to Whitehall. So I said, "Righto, mate, I'll see what I can do for you. As soon as ever I've got a clear road, I'll let you go." And that was my first night at French Drove as a signalman.
The passengers saw as they approached March station to tell them that they were at the most important place in the country. the commonest items of railway hardware are the chairs that hold the track. These two were cast specifically for the Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint. The one on the left is dated 1880, which is just before the joint was instituted, and is lettered GN and GER. The one on the right is dated 1883 and is labelled GN and GE Joint Committee. Eastern Joint Railway cast iron warning to the public not to trespass. These were found primarily at the northern end of the line, and as you can see it's dated King's Cross, July 1896. So transmitting messages along the line many years ago. This is a block telegraph instrument used to signal trains between Grassmoor Junction at March and 20 Feet River. This is a similar instrument, although it had a separate plunger that was used for signalling trains from Whitemoor Junction to March East Junction via the Up Independent Goods Avoiding line, which ran behind March Railway Station. This is a Great Northern Railway style, Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint boundary post, used to mark the edge of the company's property and generally found to the northern end of the line. There's an example of office furniture found on the Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint line. This is an office chair that originally was in the station office at Cubbit. This is a platform lamp that used to illuminate the platform at Murrow. It's a Great Eastern pattern lamp as opposed to the previously seen GN one. Railway by Silver and Fleming Limited, and this is a close-up of the manufacturer's trademark. Reservoir and burner of the same lamp. This is a Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint hat badge. It would be worn by the uniform staff along the line. I don't know, this is the only remaining horseshoe sign that the LNER hung up under the gas lamps, and this one is obviously from March. The Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint line started at Huntingdon, and all mileages along the line were measured from there. This is a milepost marking 21 miles from Huntingdon along the joint.
Here is the joint line platform at March.
Once when I got called in to do help with the Royal Train at March, the area manager, Nigel Barrett, rang me up. He said, we're in trouble. He said, one of the men have gone off sick who was doing the job. He's gone off sick. Can you come down and help us? So I went down in the afternoon to make sure I knew what I was doing. And I'd got to be where the train was being uncoupled in the platform and make sure it was supervised that lot. a flagman would be arranged and there'd be a spare guard there to take the train forward down the sidings. And so that was it. So I arrived in the middle of the night with the hand lamp and went on the platform roughly where it was, but there was no flagman there. There was no flagman there, and I couldn't find the blinking spot where the train was to stop because it was marked in chalk and didn't show up on my hand lamp. So there am I on my hands and knees walking down this 4 foot on my hands and knees looking for this chalk mark, and the Royal train's coming back towards me. And in the end I found it, and I found it in time to stop the train. Not near enough. And when I looked around for the spare guard, he wasn't there. And there's a lone figure about the other end of the platform, about 50, 60 yards away, and I went tearing after him. I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm the guard." I said, "What for?" It's that train. I said, "Well, when I get down to the train, then the Royal train won't come here and fetch you." And we had a bit of trouble getting him in the train and getting a proper brake test done. It seemed to be a little bit slow to me, and things didn't seem... Anyway, we did get it in, we got it away, and I let rip. I couldn't help it about the guards of Whitemore, and that was that. And we went back later on into the area manager's office to have an inquest. And Nigel Barrett turned around to me and said, "You don't think very much to our guys and gone?" I said, "Well, no, I don't." He said, "How the devil do you know?" He said, "Well, next time you oscillate like that," he said, "switch your radio off." He said, all and sundry had heard what I thought about them. So that was that. But it went, the joint line went, it closed up, unfortunately. They closed it up, they pulled the tracks up, and what can we say? It was the end of an era. It was the end of an era, and lots of good men had to finish, and Trappist on somewhere, but where, I don't know.